A lot of guitar players, especially the newer ones, think they need a huge, loud, and expensive amp to sound good. Big amps are expensive, heavy, and take up space, and you can't really crank them really that loud without annoying your parents or neighbors. You don't actually get to enjoy the tone unless it's cranked super loud, and that can be frustrating. So, people end up owning these big, huge amps, but not practicing as much just because it isn't a practical setup. I want to explain today why having a solid smart practice amp is a better option to start out and have in your collection, because having a big amp is not necessarily a bad thing. It is just way more practical to own a practice amp that is ready to go and can be used for headphone and low volume use while keeping that tonal clarity. I'm going to be going over the Spark Positive Gravity amp today. I'm not showing it on camera, but there are loads of very similar practice amps that you can buy. And I'm not necessarily saying to buy one of these. I just want to explain how they're more practical and useful. So why are smart practice amps a better option? Well, when you're practicing or writing music, you don't need a crazy stadium volume level amp to listen to your playing. You want to obviously be respectful to your neighbors and parents with the amount of noise you're making, because I will admit it is always fun to play your music super loud and have a good time. I get complaints from my parents all the time. However, when I do practice with a low volume practice amp or in headphones, I don't ever get noise complaints. And I'm getting a more level sounded tone out of my amp and can really hear what's going on. Also, most smart practice amps come with a variety of different tones and effects that are built into the amp itself, without the need of an extensive pedal board that is, one, more money, and two, takes up a lot more space. In fact, with the Spark amp, it comes with an app where you can have a selection of 100 of different amps, drive pedals, modulators, and more, and that stands true for a lot of the different practice amps available. Most of these practice amps pride themselves on a good low price that doesn't sacrifice versatility and can do pretty much any sound that you can think of. The idea is not about replacing a real amp, but is about having something that works for your life and is more convenient for your room, your volume limits, and your workflow. The practice amp alone has provided me with just about any tone that I can think of. It has like a good, like clean tone. And then you can do anything from that to like a nice, all the way to like something with like a crazy heavy delay effect on it. As you can see, this practice amp sounds amazing and clear, which is what you want. If I were to put a thing on a big massive tab, I would variety in the room, even at a with the knob barely turned, which is not good for quick, efficient practice. I actually have a story from when I first got my first amp. It was a Raven RG100 watt amp. I practiced with it, and it would be entirely too loud to play. Like I really set the volume right there and be shaking the whole room. And I would have it on the lowest gain, and the sound I was getting out of that was not as pure as it would be if it was a higher volume. I found out about the world of good practice amps and finally got my hands on one, and it was the biggest switch ever. It was incredibly inspiring because I wasn't just limited to the basic clean and dirty channel of the Raven and had an extensive catalog of different sounds to make. One thing that isn't talked about enough is how inspiring it is to have an amazing tone. It will give you more motivation to play when your gear sounds amazing and not dull or dry, especially if you're just starting out playing. Another great thing about these kind of amps is the portability factor as well. I've taken my amp to my friend's house countless times and had a simple and effective setup that was ready to go and play. It's way easier to do that than with a massive heavy amp. To wrap this up, practice amps are genuinely just one of those things I will swear by and have the experience to share with you about. Um, a practice amp is, like I said, versatile, portable, and it won't annoy the crap out of your neighbors. They are very efficient and accessible at what they do, and I'm not saying don't buy a big amp. They have a time and their place. But if you're a guitarist and you're considering getting a good amp, a good practice amp is the route to go. Thank you. Peace.